In a shocking scandal that could cripple the UK's international reputation, the leading candidate for the Commonwealth Secretary-General has demanded that Britain pay India more money than it has in reparations for its colonial past. The bombshell statement comes just as Keir Starmer prepares to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, CHOGM, in Samoa, throwing the Prime Minister into the centre of a brewing reparations crisis that threatens to overshadow the entire summit. Joshua Setipa, former Trade Minister for Lesotho and one of the top contenders to replace Baroness Patricia Scotland as Commonwealth Secretary-General, made the explosive claim during an interview with the Financial Times. Setipa's remarks have sent shockwaves through Downing Street, with critics calling it a direct challenge to Keir Starmer's leadership just as he prepares to face King Charles III and leaders from across the Commonwealth at the high-profile summit. Setipa didn't mince words, arguing that the UK owes India more money than it could ever afford to pay for the atrocities committed during British rule. If the UK were to calculate how much it has to pay India, I don't think it even has that much money, Setipa declared, igniting outrage and fueling an already heated debate over the legacy of Britain's colonial past. The timing couldn't be worse for Starmer, whose government has worked hard to distance itself from calls for reparations, but now finds itself facing demands that could further complicate Britain's relationship with its former colonies. The demand for reparations has been a thorny issue for years, but Setipa's explosive remarks have reignited the debate at the worst possible time. The UK government has consistently rejected calls for reparations, maintaining that Britain's role in history, while regrettable, should not come with a financial price tag. But Setipa's comments have put Starmer in an uncomfortable position as he heads into a summit already marked by political tensions between wealthier and developing Commonwealth nations. As Starmer braces himself for the summit, pressure is mounting from Caribbean nations who have long advocated for reparations, and now it appears that India is being drawn into the conversation. Setipa's comments reflect a growing sentiment among former colonies that Britain should do more to acknowledge and compensate for the damage caused by centuries of exploitation and oppression under the British Empire. His remarks come on the heels of a growing movement within the Caribbean, led by Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley, to push reparations to the forefront of international discussions. Mottley, a vocal advocate for reparations, has argued that the Commonwealth must confront the horrors of slavery and colonialism through financial compensation. Reparations should be part of a global reset, Mottley has said in the past, and her position has gained significant support in recent years, especially as Barbados and other nations push for reparations to be acknowledged by the UK. Now, with Setipa's backing, the issue threatens to dominate discussions at the Commonwealth Summit. Downing Street, however, has doubled down on its stance, refusing to entertain any discussion of reparations at the summit. A government spokesperson issued a statement in response to Setipa's remarks, saying, "Reparations are not on the agenda for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. The government's position on this issue has not changed. We do not pay reparations." But the firm stance from Keir Starmer and his government is unlikely to quell the growing calls for justice. The reparations movement has gained momentum in recent years, particularly after the Windrush scandal and the renewed focus on Britain's role in the transatlantic slave trade. Many argue that Britain's imperial history has left a devastating legacy in former colonies, and that financial reparations are the only way to begin addressing the enduring inequalities caused by centuries of exploitation. While Setipa's call for reparations has been welcomed by some as a necessary reckoning with Britain's colonial past, it has also provoked a fierce backlash from others. Critics within the UK argue that the idea of financial compensation for colonialism is both impractical and unjust, pointing out that it is difficult to calculate the exact damages caused by the British Empire and that the modern-day UK should not be held financially responsible for actions taken hundreds of years ago. Despite these objections, Setipa's demand is a political powder keg that threatens to overshadow the entire CHOGM summit. His comments have placed reparations at the centre of the conversation, with Caribbean nations and others pushing the issue harder than ever before. Barbados's Mia Mottley, who has long argued for reparations, is expected to press the matter further, framing it as a moral and financial obligation that Britain can no longer ignore. Keir Starmer, meanwhile, faces a diplomatic nightmare. While his government continues to insist that reparations are off the table, the momentum behind the reparations movement is growing, and Satipa's comments have only added fuel to the fire. For Starmer, the challenge is not just about avoiding direct confrontation, but also about managing the delicate relationship between the UK and its former colonies, many of which are calling for more than just symbolic gestures of apology. Satipa, who is seen as a strong contender to lead the Commonwealth, emphasised that reparations cannot simply be about writing cheques. He argued that the legacy of colonialism requires deeper systemic reform, including changes to the global financial system that provide more loans and grants to developing nations still suffering from the economic and social impacts of colonial rule. The Commonwealth is the best forum to make a political commitment on reparations, Satipa said, urging wealthier nations to take concrete action. All three candidates vying for the Commonwealth Secretary-General position are believed to be open to supporting reparations in some form, which could mark a dramatic shift in the Commonwealth's approach to colonial legacy issues. If Satipa or another pro-reparations candidate is elected, it could put further pressure on Britain to reconsider its long-standing refusal to engage in discussions about financial compensation. David Lammy, the UK Foreign Secretary, has previously called for reparations following the Windrush scandal, stating in 2018, "As Caribbean people, we are not going to forget our history. We don't just want to hear an apology, we want reparation." Lammy's comments reflect the frustration within many Commonwealth nations that Britain has yet to fully acknowledge or atone for its colonial past. As the reparations debate intensifies, Joshua Satipa's remarks about India have added a new dimension to the conversation. India, once the jewel in the crown of the British Empire, suffered economic and social devastation during British rule, and there is a growing movement within the country to demand compensation for the damage caused. Satipa's assertion that the UK could never afford to pay India what it owes is a stark reminder of the scale of Britain's historical debt, and it raises the question of whether financial reparations could ever truly address the injustices of colonialism. For Keir Starmer, the stakes couldn't be higher. The Commonwealth Summit was meant to focus on pressing global issues, but it now seems likely that reparations will dominate the agenda. Starmer must navigate the growing tensions within the Commonwealth carefully, balancing the demands of developing nations with the political realities at home. The UK government's refusal to engage in reparations discussions may hold for now, but the pressure is mounting, and Satipa's comments have pushed the issue to the forefront of international debate. As the Commonwealth grapples with its colonial legacy, the question remains, will Britain ever be forced to confront its past in a meaningful way, or will it continue to resist calls for reparations? With Joshua Satipa and other Commonwealth leaders pushing harder than ever for justice, the reparations movement may be about to reach a tipping point.